Hello gamers of the world, this is Adventure Rules, and welcome back to my series where I play every NES game. This one, we're having some Pacman fever. It's good old Pacman. Now, I've played Pacman quite a bit in my day. I've never gotten good at it, but I played quite a bit of Pacman as it's probably like gotten more ports than Doom. And Doom is like, the fact how many ports Doom has gotten is straight up become a meme. Like, can run Doom. Like, Doom and, I think it might have more freaking ports than Doom and Skyrim put together, which are the two games that everyone makes fun of for having so many ports. Because Pac-Man, just about every Namco collection has Pac-Man in it, and there's been like freaking dozens of Namco collections. And they also feature in just about every, like in Pac-Man games released in the early 2000s would all have the original Pac-Man in them in some way. In fact, not even just in the early 2000s, in the 2010s, they'd also, just about every Pac-Man game you can imagine has the original Pac-Man in it in some way. Where, like, the original Pac-Man has gotten so many freaking ports, and this is one of the earlier ones for the NES. I say one of the earlier ones because I believe the first ever port was of the absolutely horrendous Charge 600 version. The version that's often been blamed for crashing the entire video game industry. Although it wasn't just Pac-Man and it wasn't just E.T. either. It was a confluence of just about those two games plus a whole host of other terrible games being released on Atari that led to the crash of '83. Regardless, Pac-Man is an iconic game for a reason. It's still fun to this day. The original Pac-Man is still fun, which is why I still go back to it from time to time. And though this isn't an arcade perfect port by any means, it's about as close as you can get to arcade perfect back in the day. It's about as close as you can get to arcade perfect. Like my first time playing Pac-Man was in Pacman World on the PS1. And that port, that game has the original Pac-Man in it, like most Pac-Man games do. And that game is freaking, Pacman World itself is freaking awesome, and the fact that it had the original Pac-Man, I spent hours playing the original Pac-Man in Pacman World, and that pretty much is an arcade perfect port. I believe it actually is an arcade perfect port. Like, of course, that's not a PS1, like, friggin' 15 years after this port came out, but still. It's funny. Pacman World was meant to celebrate Pac-Man's, 20th anniversary, and it's funny because that game is turning freaking 30 this year. It came out in 1999, which means that game is turning 30 this year. 25, I mean, not 30, 25. My mistake. Not 30, 25. But yeah, my math isn't good. Yeah, Pac-Man World turned 25, so Pacman World is officially 5 years older than Pac-Man was when it first came out. Pacman World is now, several years older than Pac-Man was when it first came out. And it was meant to celebrate Pac-Man's 20th anniversary, and Pacman World itself is now 25 years old. It was meant to celebrate Pac-Man's 20th anniversary, but it didn't actually come out on Pac-Man's 20th anniversary. It came out 1 year earlier. Which I believe the 19th anniversary, but whatever. It meant to celebrate his 20th anniversary, but it actually came out in 1999, the year before his 20th anniversary. Pacman World was a freaking great game, and I'm glad they remade it. They probably had to remake it because of the whole legal dispute involving Ms. Pac-Man. Long story short, through a series of legal bullcrap, the Namco doesn't technically own the rights to Ms. Pac-Man. And due to that, a lot of the earlier games that featured her had to be edited in some way when being re-released. And the original Ms. Pac-Man arcade game cannot be distributed by Namco due to legal bullcrap involving another company that technically owns the rights to that game. So poor Ms. Pac-Man is in, it's like a freaking, Namco often refuses to, they basically don't admit that she exists. ever did exist. Even the Namco arcade, like even the Namco like social media accounts, like when someone said, "Who is this?" and they posted an image of Miss Pac-Man and said, "This she is redacted." Because yeah, like even the Namco things make fun of how they can't really feature Miss Pac-Man in any games now because of the legal issues involving who owns the rights to Ms. Pac-Man. Which freaking sucks. So Ms. Pac-Man is in like legal purgatory now. Namco not technically owning the rights to her. Because technically, the thing is, Namco didn't technically create Ms. Pac-Man. It was originally a mod, I believe. Originally a mod of Pac-Man. That they turned into its own arcade game. And then, through some legal things, I think this other company, which produces like crappy plug-and-play systems, now owns the rights to Ms. Pac-Man. Do some legal nonsense. And they refuse to let Namco use it. Because they're like corporate garbage. Regardless, the situation with Miss Pac-Man is kind of messed up, honestly. Poor Miss Pac-Man. It's like being a child in the middle of a custody battle. Good Lord. Yeah, like, whole things like Miss Pac-Man. Yeah, like I said, I love me some Pac-Man. And this is about as close as you get to a arcade perfect port back in the day. Even though it isn't quite arcade perfect. As the visuals look quite a bit different. The colors look a lot darker and duller than the arcade graphics in the arcade game. But on the upside, the whole maze is on one screen, which wasn't always the case with early ports of Pac-Man. Regardless, the thing is, with these like plays, like these videos of when I play old arcade game, old like NES games, I'm essentially playing them like. You might notice that it's very clear that some of these games are being played in different platforms than others. Some of which I use emulators for, some of which I use the Nintendo Switch Online for, and this one I'm using the Namco, this is called Namco Archive or something like that. Namco Archive collection on the Switch. I'm gonna use a second print and see what it's called. Namco Museum Archive, yeah, Volume 1. I'm using that for this. Because I try to play games legally whenever I can. Try to play games legally whenever I can. Like, whenever I have some way to play it, but a lot of the games I have forced to use an emulator because there's no real easy way to, other than, like, working out money for, like, all this stuff, including, like, the game itself and, like, the converter and stuff. I'm not doing all that. If I can't get the game through modern means, I'm going to have to use an emulator. Like, I'm one of the people that's of the opinion that I only really condone piracy when there's no other way to play the game legally. When you have, like, no other option, I usually only believe in piracy when there's no other option. Like, I'm a major proponent of game preservation. Which is why I cannot stand, like, the fact that, like, digital-only games exist, because, like, a lot of those games will become inaccessible to people in the future. And a lot of those are already inaccessible. Like, for several years, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was unplayable, literally unplayable. Unless you already happen to own it. Because it was taken off the online stores. And that's a major problem in the game industry, is a lack of game preservation. I'm glad that more companies are posting, like, collections of their old games. And Nintendo does a decent job, but a lot of their old games still aren't accessible. Even though many of them are, a lot of them are not. Especially their old games after the N64 era. While some of them are available on modern systems, not many are. There are many that are not. Like I said, I only believe in like emulation when there's no other way to play a game. Like when you have to go out of your way to buy like a cartridge and like hoarding like a special thing of a converter for like HDMI converter for it. I'm not going through all that hassle to get even some of these cartridges are going to be really freaking expensive too. So I'm not having to spit up my back if I have to use an emulator every once in a while. But whenever I can get away with, whenever I have another method to play a game, I'm going to do that. As you can see with this. Technically, when I played Xevious, I did have another option. I could have used this collection, but I completely forgot about this collection until I got up to Pac-Man. So, yeah, I'm playing Pac-Man on this. I mean, I'm not really talking much about Pac-Man at all. But then again, there's not really much to talk about. Hope people don't mind me going on like these tirades. Regardless, Pac-Man's a great game. I don't know what else to say. It's become a pop culture phenomenon for a reason. It's just fun. It's still, like, the original Pac-Man still holds up. It's still fun. The original Pac-Man is still fun all these years later. Because it's such a simple game, and it's so freaking addicting. Like, I've sunk many hours into Pac-Man, even though I'm not particularly good at it. Like, I could never get to the kill screen. At least I'm better than, like, scam artist Billy Mitchell. Huh. What are you gonna do, sue me? Like you do everyone else? But regardless, he's freaking screwed now, so... I think it might be a situation like how Scientology used to always sue people after one particular incident. I forget what incident it was, but now the Scientology doesn't really sue people too much anymore, because it backfired on them one time. I don't know exactly the details, but yeah. Nowadays, it may not be too long before Billy Mitchell ends up not suing anyone anymore because like physically can't, unable to. It's likely that he might actually be going to prison. In case you don't know, Billy Mitchell is, well, one thing he's called Carnus, but he used to own the world records to games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, but his high scores were taken down off of the website Twin Galaxies because it was believed that he cheated, which he did. However, he will sue anyone that calls him out on his cheating because he wants to hold on to his position as the best retro gamer of all time. And the guy's a total freaking sleazebag in just about every single way. Like, it's crazy. Like, there's a whole, like, just look up Billy Mitchell Carl Jobst on YouTube, and you'll have hours of enjoyment from just the crazy saga of Billy Mitchell. Like, there's so much crazy crap within it. Like, just to make a long story short, he committed perjury, submitting false statements, and forging evidence. He might go. Those are all things that can say you're sent to jail. Like, faking a high score is not enough to get you sent to jail. But those things are. And the lengths he went to try to, the lengths he goes to try to maintain his status as the best retro gamer of all time, it's honestly freaking pathetic. Freaking pathetic. And it just, he's trying to help his public image, but his public image is basically that of a freaking bully who will sue anyone that calls him out on being a bully or being a con artist. Like, there's no way his reputation will ever recover. Like, there's no point for him to continue doing what he's doing. Yeah, he still does it. He still wants to hold on to the image of being the best retro gamer of all time, no matter what he has to do. And it's on all this stuff he's going through just over a video game high score. Like, oh my god, I love video games, but jeepers, it's just a video game high score for frig's sakes. And yet he, darn it, he's just such an a-hole and I'm glad that, like, in the court case that's coming out, like, they eventually settled. Although it doesn't mean that Billy Mitchell won, as he didn't have his high scores put back on the website. And now he's suing them because he thought that the settlement would allow them to put the scores back on the website, but it didn't. Oh. I don't know what exactly the settlement did, but essentially nothing has changed after the settlement. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but essentially, like, I don't know exactly what happened, but essentially it just means that the case was basically ended without a true verdict. He asked like he won, even though it was really more so that he still technically lost the lawsuit, even though it ended in a settlement. And yet he's trying to spin it in a way that makes him look like a good guy, even though nobody believes his crap anymore. Like, even people who used to support him and stand by him, besides, like, people who are just as much scumbags as he is, I mean, the people that used to defend him can't defend him anymore, because with all the evidence that's come forward about him. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, this whole saga of him going through so much just to defend a freaking video game high score. And the fact that he, like I said, perjury, submitting false statements, and forging evidence. He did all that just to maintain. Those are 3 things that can get you sent to jail. Those are all felonies, I'm pretty sure. Those are all freaking felonies. Not misdemeanors, freaking felonies. Like, they don't mess around with that stuff. Courts do not mess around with that stuff. Like, he's lucky he's not in jail now. He's not in jail now. After all that. Oh boy. But I digress. Billy Mitchell talks. The thing is, like, it's not bad enough that he sued. Like, he would sue, like, YouTubers with just a few thousand subscribers that call him out in his bullcrap. His friggin' slap suits. Luckily, I live in Canada, where we have specifically Canadian law has a part in it that protects people against slap suits. So Billy Mitchell can't really touch me. Yeah, Canadian law protects people against slap suits. A slap suit, in case you don't know, is like an intimidation lawsuit, which the person doesn't intend to win. They just use the lawsuit as a way of silencing the person due to, like, lawyer fees and whatnot. Thankfully, like I said, in Canada, there's laws that protect people against slap suits. Laws that protect people against slap suits. It's specifically, like, one of our rights. It's part of our Bill of Rights, essentially. Like a charter. I think the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is basically the Canadian equivalent to the U.S. Constitution, essentially. There is a Canadian Constitution, but let's see here. Oh, good lord. Because Canadian law does work similarly to American law, but also different in other ways. Like I said, we're protected from slap suits. Like, there's specific Canadian laws that protect people from slap suits, so I'm not really afraid that Billy Mitchell's going to come for me. After all, I don't have any subscribers at all. I have like 20-something subscribers, but not very many. Maybe that'll change in the future, but regardless, I do not understand, like, what this deal is. Like, he not only does he sue, like, small YouTubers, but he also, like, one YouTuber, he sued a YouTuber who was terminally ill, who later committed suicide, because, like, not only was he, like, friggin' dying, he now had to deal with, like, the lawsuit just got too much for him, and he took his own life, and then frickin' the human wastebasket, Billy Mitchell, acted all proud of the fact that he didn't show any remorse for the guy whatsoever when he found out the guy died. The guy is a festering, pasturing bag of human waste. And that's generally what his reputation is. Like, there's, like, if you also want to know more, look up, if you don't feel like watching all the Carl Jobs videos, which is quite long, there's a much more digestible 3-hour-long video. Like seriously, Goldust videos last longer than 3 hours. It's like a 3-hour-long video called something along the lines of "The Biggest Lie in Video Game History," the Billy Mitchell story. I think is what it's called. And that documentary is like 3 hours long. It's on YouTube, and it's a YouTube documentary, of course. And it is amazing. Like, it basically goes into such detail about the whole Billy Mitchell story, way better than I could. And if you want to know just how the crazy lengths this guy went to protect his image as the best video game player of the 80s, I'm not saying that he's bad at video games, but the fact is he literally cheated. One of my favorite parts of the whole thing is that they straight up said that he wouldn't play a game unless it had like a black joystick, because that's the original hardware. So the whole case was contingent on the fact that he played on original hardware. And when they showed the one picture they showed that was from the way he did like a game show, like a permanent motor vehicle branch, I think it was. And the one piece of photo from that event, basically put the final nail in the coffin for him, as it clearly shows a red joystick. And if you don't know original Pacman arcade hardware, red joystick is not original hardware. A black joystick is original hardware. And he should have said that if it was a black copy of the user, then they showed him the picture after they got him to already say that stuff, and his reaction was priceless. Good lord, it feels so good to see a-holes finally get their comeuppance. I'm told that I shouldn't be that way by like my mother, but I don't know. I just don't like people who exploit others and like hurt others in ways like that. So I just feel so good when I see them getting their comeuppance. Even though you're not supposed to be the kind of person to judge. That, you know, they say don't judge lest you be judged yourself, but I don't care. If someone's gonna be a jerk, someone's gonna do like horrible, awful things, they should receive karma for it. I'm sorry. I know that I should be the one to want that, but just the way I feel about certain things. I realized I could have stopped a while ago because I believe we're getting all the content. I've already gotten most of the content of Canada Pac-Man, such as the same level looping over and over. But not only am I having fun playing it, I'm also having fun just talking about different things. Yeah, for like games in which I don't have a whole lot to talk about or say, I'm just gonna talk about whatever, like I said before. I think this will be my last round. Then I'll call it an episode. And boom! Third level down. Alright. Oy. Oh boy. Anyways, Pac-Man's like AI was considered quite impressive at the time because the AI actually does different things depending on the situation, and the ghosts move in different ways depending on their position relative to Pac-Man. Each ghost also has a different AI, different behavior, which was quite impressive at the time. Like honestly, Pac-Man was leagues ahead of any other game of its era. The reason why territory control games or like games where you're going around mazes have become so popular. Like the game I played a few games ago, Devil World, was definitely a Pac-Man clone. Regardless, I'll give this game an A. It's Pac-Man. What can I say? It's awesome. And with that, this Dimension Rules saying ciao.